Ooh, John Heyman. Mickey Callaway is meeting with Brodie Van Wagenen this morning. Decision is near. John Heyman, please don't be hitting the sauce this morning. Please give me the truth. No way. The Mets announced firing of manager Mickey Callaway. Ken Rosenthal, you sweet little elf. Let's go. Mickey Callaway, he's gone. Finally, Mickey Callaway, he's gone. Thank you. There is a God. The baseball gods, they're real. Oh, Mickey Callaway, I'm sorry like you lost your job. That's terrible. But as a Met fan, as a New York Met fan, you need to be jumping to joy. You just got Christmas in October. Mickey Mouse is gone. I'm happy. I'm happy. As a Met fan, I'm happy. I don't know how you couldn't be happy. The Mickey Callaway reign is over. The era is over. I thought it would never end. I thought for sure he was sticking around. I'm gonna need to sit down to do the rest of this video. I'm out of shape. I make YouTube videos for a living. But as you can tell from the beginning, from what I did there, from what the title of the video is, Mickey Callaway, the former, I can't believe I even get to say that, but the ex-manager, Mickey Callaway, he was fired today from the New York Mets. He is no longer the manager of that team, and wow, this is some of the best news that I've heard as a Met fan in a long time. This is absolutely fantastic. You guys, I think, know that I'm pretty much a diehard Mets fan. I picked them to win the World Series this year, despite having Mickey Callaway being the manager. And listen, I know Mickey Callaway is a big fan of mine. He asked to take a picture of me when I was at the field at the Mets game. But oh my goodness, Mickey Callaway is finally gone. Like, this is a day that I didn't think I would see, at least not this year. I thought for sure they were going to hold on to him. The Wilpons are known for being cheap, and they're going to be paying Mickey Callaway money next year to not even manage the team. So I thought for sure they were like, we're going to let him ride out his contract. We're not paying for two managers. But they did it. They flew down to Florida because that's where Mickey was at. They flew down to Florida. The Wilpons, Brodie Van Wagenen, they had the conversation with him to let him know that they were letting him go. They were moving on from Mickey Callaway, which we are going to get into because boy has it been a complete mess. It started off on a high note. The Mets were super hot last year, and then Mickey Callaway started to meddle with the Mets, and you found out that, yeah, maybe this guy doesn't really know what he's doing as a manager. Because as a pitching coach, he was praised with the Indians, but boy, as a manager, he just looked completely lost at times. So let's go ahead and start to really talk about Mickey Callaway as a manager, why I'm so excited to see him go, and why it is huge news that the Mets are moving on from him. So as many of you already know, Mickey Callaway was hired to be the Mets manager in the offseason of 2018, leading into that upcoming season. Prior to that, he was pitching coach with the Cleveland Indians, who had had some success in the past with their pitching. Their pitching was lights out. And for a Mets team that was built around pitching, you might have thought, this is a decent idea to get a pitching guy in there to have a team that's built around their pitchers. And I'm not gonna lie, it started off great with Mickey Callaway in the 2018 season. The Mets that year got off to one of their best starts, starting this year off 11-2. Beating up the Cardinals, beating up the Phillies, beating up the Nationals, the Marlins. They were just taking names, they were kicking butt. The team was looking good. Things were looking forward. We're like, finally, the Mets are winning. And honestly, that first month of April, even with Mickey, was great. 17-9, that's a really good month. That's what you strive for, especially when you're the New York Mets, especially when you're a big market team, especially when you have high expectations. But then May comes around, and this is where Mickey Callaway really starts to get into his groove of, you start to say, what? Because then they go into the month of May, and they lose 6 straight games in a row, moving them to a 17-15 record. So that first month, all that work was lost. We then go to Cincinnati, and this is where you go, whoa. The Mets are going to be in trouble because Mickey Callaway did something that I have never seen happen in the game of baseball. I've coached 13-year-olds, I've coached 12-year-olds, I've coached 8-year-olds. I've played baseball my entire life. I have never seen what Mickey Callaway just did. And what he did in a game against the Cincinnati Reds was he got the lineup wrong. The lineup batted out of order. The lineup that the umpires had did not match the lineup that was posted in the dugout. Now, while Mickey Callaway was not directly responsible for this, he is the manager of the New York Mets. It doesn't matter if you have one of your assistant coaches making the lineups or he's the one who hands them out. You need to make sure as the manager that this doesn't happen. It's not like this is something that occurs commonly in baseball. How many other times have you heard of managers messing up the lineup or a team batting out of order? Not many times. You want to know why? Because those managers that were in place were capable of doing their job. To Mickey's defense, there should have been someone else who caught this, but that didn't happen. And at the end of the day, you're the manager. You need to be held accountable for your mistakes. You're held accountable for how the team performs. And when the team bats out of order, the lineup that you make, you are the manager of the team. That can't happen. That's where as a Met fan you went, oh no, it's happening again. It's happening again. We got Art Howe 2.0. So at the time of that mishap, the Mets were then 18-17. Again, after starting off 11-1 to start the year and 17-9 in the first month of April. This is going to be a trend of Mickey Callaway's teams. The months of May and June are just atrocious. From May 9th to the end of June, the Mets record only got significantly worse. On June 30th, after they played their final game in the month of June, the Mets record was 32-48. As of May 9th, they were 18-17. They won 14 games and lost 31. 14-31 in a 45-game stretch. That is unheard of. In total for the months of May and June in 2018, they went 15-39. That is Baltimore Oriole-like. There was a stretch in 2018 where the Mets went 8-28. Like, that's just unheard of. Teams don't do that. And while the players have to play, the manager needs to be held accountable as well. Because for those of you who have watched Mickey Callaway manage, doesn't do a lot of it, and when he doesn't do it well. Handles the bullpen poorly, doesn't throw out the best lineups, doesn't play the matchups correctly. We'll address it later in this video, but he talks about how he goes against analytics. How can you say that? How can you say that as a manager, that you go against analytics? What? So moving on past the horrible months of May and June, they finished June at 32-48. A little bit better in the month of July. They went 500, still not great. August 500, and then September 18-10. One thing I will give Mickey Callaway credit for is that the guys seem to rally towards the end of the year. We saw that in 2018, we saw that in 2019. But there's a good chunk of the season where the team plays at an extremely low level, extremely below what expectations are, and extremely lower than what their talent level is. The Mets finished that season 77-85, and while that Mets team was not nearly as good as this 2019 team, in my opinion, that record is not how they should have finished. They had enough players in place to at least finish at a 500 record. 2018, complete disaster. And I'm sure there's way more that I'm forgetting, but I'm trying to forget the nightmare stuff right now, and I'm looking towards the future because Mickey's out of here. And then we move on to the 2019 season. We get a lot more talent in, we make some big trades. There's high expectations on this team, not only just from me, but the entire fan base and Major League Baseball expects bigger things out of the New York Mets. In typical Mickey Callaway team fashion, they start off the year pretty well, 9-4 through their first 13 games, and then they get ice cold again. Finish the month of April with a 15-14 record. Month of May rolls around, 13-15 record again, just a flat month of May. This is something that happens with Mickey Callaway's team, is that when May and June comes along, they just don't play well. 2 games under 500 in the month of May. Then we move to the month of June and they go 10-18. So just for a little clarification here, in 2 seasons in the month of June, Mickey Callaway won 15 games and lost 39. 15-39 in the month of June as a manager. I mean, like, that can't happen for the New York Mets. That's Baltimore Oriole type stuff. In fact, in the month of June in 2018, the Orioles won more games than the Mets. They won 6 games. And 2019, they also won 6 games. 12 wins for the Orioles in the month of June in the last 2 years. 15 for the Mets. And I think it's safe to say the Mets are significantly better than the Orioles. That's not just me being a biased Mets fan. That's just anybody who has any sort of clue on how baseball works. The Mets are significantly better than the Baltimore Orioles. After the All-Star break, the Mets started to play better, and yes, they were very competitive. This team rallied hard. The second half was fantastic. They played a lot more like the team we expected them to, but even then, there were still shortcomings as Mickey Callaway as a manager. Not using the right pitch hitter in the right situation. I mean, there was a game against Colorado that we ended up winning, but it was bases loaded in, I think, the 5th or 6th inning, and he keeps Rene Rivera in instead of going to Wilson Ramos because he didn't want Syndergaard to have to throw to Ramos for one more inning, which, by the way, Syndergaard in the next inning left early because he wasn't pitching well. Even if you didn't want Ramos to catch Syndergaard, you had Nito on the bench who was a third catcher. You could have pinch hit Ramos, then gone right to Nito. Mickey did a lot of mismanaging this year. He handled the bullpen horrendously. I mean, so incredibly bad. We saw Dave Island get fired earlier this year. He was a bit of the scapegoat. It probably should have been Mickey Callaway at that time, but Dave Island was the first to go. We also saw the bullpen coach get fired. Those were kind of the guys that's like, hey, here's your warning sign here. You need to improve the pitching. You were a pitching coach. You were brought in to be a guy who could handle bullpens, handle starting rotations. You haven't been able to do that. The lineups, don't even get me started. Jeff McNeil hits 2 home runs in a game. He's like, next day we're going to rest him. Michael Conforto has a good game. We're going to rest him. Even my boy Todd Frazier, who I can't believe I'm saying this, but he would start to get hot. Mickey's like, we got to give him a day off, right? I mean, he just doesn't have any sense of how the game works. He has no feel as a manager. When you're watching the game at home, when you're watching the game at the park as a Mets fan, there's just obvious decisions that need to be made, and he doesn't do it. Just bunting way too much in general sometimes with guys who are hot at the plate. He's like, Ahmed Rosario, you're hitting 400 in your last 10 days? Yeah, runner in scoring position, we're going to bunt with you for the bottom of the order to try to drive you in. I mean, like, what are we doing here? He intentionally walked Andrew Knapp to face Bryce Harper with the bases loaded. What? Oh, with 2 outs, by the way. 2 outs! There's just so many things that Mickey Callaway did throughout his 2 years as a Mets manager that made you scratch your head and go, I just don't understand what you're doing here. He didn't pull the plug early on pitchers. He pulled them too early. He didn't put the right guys in the lineup. He kept them in the lineup too much. There was just very easy decisions that Mickey Callaway didn't make, and he ended up costing the Mets many games. And I know people are going to say the players have to play well. I'm aware of that, but as the manager, your job is to put the players in the best scenario possible to win each game. And Mickey Callaway just simply did not do that. Every Met fan, every fan of baseball knew Edwin Diaz can no longer be the closer. That was probably back in July. What does Mickey Callaway do? I'm still going to run him out at closer every single game. I'm not going to use Seth Lugo. I'm not going to use Justin Wilson. I'm going to keep going to Edwin Diaz. As much as I wanted to believe in Edwin Diaz, at a point in the season, you knew it was over for him. The guy couldn't stop a nosebleed. The decisions he made, it seemed like he was a step behind everybody. Seemed like he was always trying to be sneaky, like, ooh, if I can use him here, get one more inning out of him, maybe I can save an arm for tomorrow. He was trying to either be too many steps ahead or too many steps behind. He just never made the right decision. And I'm going to find the tweet right now, but I'm going to go back to a quote of Mickey Callaway about analytics that I mentioned earlier, which you can't say that as a manager. You just can't. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here's another one that I don't even remember. Callaway admits that Syndergaard's ERA is better with Tomas Nido than it is with Wilson Ramos, but he has a better win-loss record with Ramos behind the plate. We're using win-loss record in 2019 to justify decisions. I can't even wrap my head around that. It's just mind-boggling some of the decisions he said, but let me find the tweet I was really talking about. Here it is from Mike Puma of the New York Post. I'm going to read it off here, so I'm going to look off to the side. Callaway, I bet 85% of our decisions go against the analytics, and that's how it's always going to be, because that is just on paper. It doesn't take into account the person as a human being, how he performs in these big spots, all these things a manager looks at. What? It doesn't take into account how he performs in these spots? That's what analytics tell you. They're statistics to tell you about what players do in certain situations. What is a favorable matchup? What they do, where they hit the ball, what are the percentages? How can you not look at analytics? To go against analytics and to be so open about it, I can't get behind that. I cannot allow that. That's the manager of the New York Mets. Or that was the manager of the New York Mets, thank goodness. It's been a long 2 years, and as you can tell, I'm very excited to see him go. For the people that are saying to me, congratulations, you're cheering a guy who just lost his job. Let's not pretend like Mickey Callaway's not making close to $3 million in 3 years. Not to mention, he's going to be making $1 million plus next season to not coach the New York Mets because he was fired early. And he was making close to $1 million the prior 2 years. It's not like this guy's working a minimum wage job, and it's not like he's not going to get another job in Major League Baseball somewhere. So please spare me the, oh, you're rooting for him to lose his job, because he has the luxury of making almost $1 million a year. I don't feel for the guy. You know who I feel bad for? The people that work hard to make minimum wage and lose their job. I don't feel bad for Mickey Callaway losing his job. He performed poorly. His job was to make the Mets succeed. The Mets did not succeed. He's held accountable. It's time for him to go. He's fired. So please, spare me that you're rooting for a guy to lose his job. Mickey Callaway is going to be just fine. He's not living paycheck to paycheck. He's not struggling to live with his family. While I'm sure he's upset that he's no longer going to be the Mets manager, there are far worse situations that I should be worried about than Mickey Callaway losing his job. So please, spare me that. Relax. Grow up. Now that my rant's over, I can be happy Mickey Callaway is fired. The Mets are freed of Mickey Callaway. I'm so excited. I would love to know what you guys think about the Mickey Callaway firing down in the comment section below. I'm ecstatic. I really am. I'm so happy. I'm pumped. As you guys can tell, I think I'm probably talking for 10 plus minutes in this one because I could talk about Mickey Callaway for hours on why he's a terrible manager, but I don't have to worry about it anymore. This is the last time I have to talk about him with the New York Mets. Mickey Callaway's gone forever. Aaron Hernandez. Oh, and I can just have like a big sigh of relief. Now, please, Brody, Wilpons, hire the right guy. Get me Joe Girardi. Get me someone with experience. And if not, get me Carlos Beltran. That's who I want next. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. Remember to leave a like on it. If you did, subscribe to the channel if you're new and you enjoy baseball content. This is the place to be. Hit that sub button. You know the drill. YouTube recommends you watch this video right here. And I'll leave another Mets reaction right here. So if you want to see some more of those, click through to those. Watch those videos. They're going to be great. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Mickey Callaway's gone. And this is the last time I'll ever talk about him.